And the more I read about it and the more I researched it, over 40 years, Travis, you weren't even born. You were a little baby. And I was like, I'm going to write about this someday. But I knew that it's a very complex story. All novels have their own issues, but a thriller is will take place over maybe several days. This is a novel that takes over 20 years. And it's going to, if I've written about law and justice before and families before and how they intersect with these issues, this is just that writ large. So I had a little bit of a sense that it was bigger. I never really thought of it as different, but whatever people want to say, it's different, bigger, whatever. All I know is I felt as if it took everything I had learned in 30 years of job training, like on the job, to bring that all to bear. Like I was like, girl, you got to bring all your stuff, like all of your superpowers, because this is going to take it. And also,
that's what it reads like. Honestly, it reads like you've been practicing for 30 years and you're using it all. I think so.
That's right. That's right.
So I want to ask you a question that might catch you off guard. But so in the promotional materials, they're calling Eternal your masterpiece. And what I'm wondering is, do you think of the book that way? And well, for you, what does that mean?
I wrote the promotional materials.
Oh, you wrote them?
No, one of the reviews said that, and I said, that's a good thing to say. I'm no dummy. No, I forgot the question. I was joking around about it. Do I agree?
Oh, do you think of the book that way? And what is a masterpiece?
I think, yeah, I kind of do. I kind of do think.
Yeah.
I think it's a magnum opus. I think it's everything you've learned now. It's your final exam. And that isn't to take away anything from before. I mean, listen, a basic thriller with a murder that has to be solved and figured out in real time. I mean, everything I've written requires research. I was a lawyer, so I know the law is real, the forensics are real. I usually set them in real places somewhere in Philadelphia. There are rules to be abided. And so nothing is ever easy. No novel's ever easy, but this one required so much more because it was about three families. Like, it's not just three main characters, this love triangle take place in Rome. It's really three families. It's the generation. And I was glad to read at the beginning, even though I kind of screwed up in parts, because when I remember being in Rome and researching it, and that word palimpsest came to my mind, which was like a vocab word that, like I learned for the SAT and never used in my life. And I was like, that's what they mean. Because a palimpsest was when, like, the monks would, in medieval days, would write on a manuscript, and then over time, when they write something else, they would wipe it away because it was on parchment. So they couldn't just throw it away. So they wipe it away, and then they, but it wouldn't really disappear. So palimpsest came to mean the layers of time made visible. And when I happened to be sitting in Rome eating a pizza, and I looked out on this like different array of architecture, and there was an arch from the Roman times and something from the 1800s and the crenellated turrets and all the things I described. And I said, it's very interesting. That is a palimpsest, but also the most graphic definition of a palimpsest is generations of a family.
Yeah.
And so that is really, use family equals history, and history being the stories of family over time. So that's really what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I love that that scene in the book where I think Marco he's walking somewhere in Rome, and he really feels I can't remember exactly what building he's in, but he really feels the history around him, and then he goes and gives that speech and it has the unfortunate effect of accelerating his career in fascism, I guess. Well,
but for a minute, because what this is a love triangle set in fascist Italy. So there's a young girl, Elisabetta, and she has two best friends who are guys. One is Marco, who's kind of this really athletic and robust, but I don't know why everything is so loud in my kitchen. I'm sorry. Robust kind of guy. He's a cyclist. And his best friend is Sandra, who's more thoughtful and kind of a math genius. And so Marco feels so, he kind of feels very inferior because he has a secret. And his secret is that he can't read. Now, the modern reader will know that he has dyslexia, but I had to research what was dyslexia like in 1930s Rome. And it wasn't, it was very, very obviously in its nascent education about it. So he just feels stupid. So what happens to him is because you have to sort of look at, they're all fascists at the beginning of the book because you had to be, but understand, why does fascism appeal to him? And it's partly because it speaks to his insecurity. So that one night, I'm explaining just for readers, and this isn't a spoiler because I want to be careful not to give any away. But one night he's traveling around Rome on a bicycle. And that's interesting because Mussolini, what he did as as an intentional matter was redo the map of Rome. He actually replanned Rome and excavated a lot of the ruins and moved the roads so that you would drive past them and so you would see them. So they became visible in a way they hadn't been before. And it became a source of pride for someone like Marco, and he ends up going into this excavation pit, which I could use the photos of the day that he could do. And he realizes, I'm not nobody. I'm a son of Rome. And that is really, really special. And so fascism for him speaks to his self-worth. You know, when I started to study this, right? And I looked at, why does Mussolini succeed? So many of the armchair BS-y kind of stuff said he made the trains run on time. But that isn't what did it, in my view. And I'm only an amateur historian, but I did consult one. It was much stronger than that. He got a cult-like following because he spoke to the real needs of the people, the need for them to feel pride, the ultra-nationalism. And at the same time, that was the carrot. But at the same time, the stick was, you'll join us because you have to, and we'll propagandize, and we'll make radios really cheap so you can hear my speeches, and we'll censor the newspapers, and we'll beat you up if you don't join. So it was really a two-handed approach, but certainly that's the long explanation of what we're talking about. What was the appeal of fascism to everyday people? What's interesting is, if I can just add, that Italy was so unique, and that was another reason why I wanted to write about it, because it really is called the Forgotten Front in World War II. And what happened during Italian fascism is so interesting, especially vis-a-vis the Jews, because Italian fascism didn't even start out anti-Semitic. Italian Jews were very assimilated into society. There was a 50% intermarriage rate. The mayor of Rome was Jewish. So that when it did, anti-Semitism didn't really come in fascism until Mussolini decides to join with Hitler, which he went back and forth about. And so then these barrage of anti-Semitic laws are enacted, and I kind of show the effect of those. And that set up the Jews of Rome for the Nazis' eventual occupation. But it was so fascinating to me, and then I'll shut up, because everybody knows that Rome is the source of the seat of Roman Catholicism, and St. Peter's is right there. But I learned in my research that the Roman Jewish community, which is in the ghetto, the so-called ghetto, is the oldest continuously existing Jewish community in Western civilization. Right? That is a mind-blowing fact. And the juxtaposition of those two facts and what happens to the confluence of those things as the 1930s increase and fascism looms and then explodes is really, really fascinating as a backdrop. And so I used it in a journal.